Thank you all so much for joining us and participating and just, getting started with stuff. And let's see. Well, looks like it's working. Okay. Well, I don't want to be on that too long. Okay. So can you all see this screen here, Ideathon number 4?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. So we're going to talk about like application reviews and answer any questions that you all might have. So I just want to make sure everyone can hear and I can hear everyone.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So let's see. So first things first, I want to always let everyone know is that the grant is for $50,000, and no, you cannot apply for the entire amount. You can't apply for $49,999 either. So what that means is that when you're looking at your project and what you want to do, think about what you'll need and base your budget off of that. And we'll get into that a little bit more in a few minutes. But let's go over the eligibility requirements. So you have to request at least $250. It has to take place in and directly impact Highland Park. And we definitely are going to talk about that. But it must involve the arts and engage the community in arts and or culture. And that includes the creation of a specific artistic product or program. You do have to secure a match. Now the match can be cash or in kind. So, excuse me, that means some sort of financial, something that someone is giving you, or an in-kind match. And based on when you have applied and received monies in the past, that dictates what your match must be. So if you've applied in the past 2 rounds of the grant and received money for both of those rounds, your application, if it was chosen this time, you will have to present a 75% match, cash or in kind. And if you've applied once before and received funding, it's 50%. If you're a new applicant or you have never received funding, if you've applied before and didn't receive funding, it's 25% match. The art project has to take place between June 1st and December 1st, 2020. So I think we should start here with some questions about our present circumstances. It has to directly impact Highland Park. So how that happens is going to be left up to the applicants to make their case for that. So creativity wise, there's no limitations outside of what the governor put on us. But, if you needed to do something virtual, online, creating a group or, phone calls or however, or if it's like a mailer or something like that, just think creatively as possible in order to reach out to people. As far as what in-kind is, in-kind for our example, we usually use is if there was, in this day and age, it could be like someone's Zoom account, for instance, and instead of normally you would have to pay to like advertise or pay to use their technology, maybe someone says, okay, no, you can use my Zoom account for free, or we'll give you, $100 worth of advertisement, on our page or website or whatever. We'll promote you through, our newspaper or something, and you don't have to pay for that. You would need to have proof that they're giving you that at whatever set amount, and that would count as your in-kind match. So does anybody have any questions before I keep going? Okay, so we're going to jump right into the grant itself. So this is the link to get to the grant on our website. So give it a second to load up. Okay, so on the ArtOps page, you would come, if you just went to our home page, you would go to programs, and then it would give you a few options and you would land on this page here. So at the top of the page, it just talks about the work we've been doing in Highland Park. And the reason why we're partnering with the Highland Park Arts and Cultural Council is because this council, we hope, will be in place to kind of do the same activities that ArtOps has been doing. So all the skill sets that we've been bringing to professional development, we're transferring all that knowledge over to residents and artists there to kind of run the show for themselves. So this is like our 50-50 year to do that. Next year will be more of the councils leading, and we'll be there to support. And hey, Ann Ruffley. I don't know if she can hear us just yet, but Ann, can you hear me yet? Ann's here. I trust that she can hear me. So let's get into the grant itself. So this is our third year of the re-grant. And the reason why it's called a re-grant is because this the funds were actually given to us by the Erb Family Foundation, and they gave it to our charge as far as how to offer the grant to people. And so, hold on one second, because I feel like can you all see the screen I'm looking at?
No.
Okay.
There's the grant.
Okay, here we go.
Yes.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I see a draft at the bottom.
Okay, I didn't share the page. I apologize. So what I was saying was this is our website here. So when I clicked the link, I was like, okay. But yeah, so you would go to this page here. And like I said, this is the Highland Park Arts and Cultural Council. This is a list of past grant recipients here, funded projects.
All right.
And this is right here on the re-grant here, the $50,000. So we have the flyer. You all have seen it because I'll be bragging about it every single time. So you've all seen it. And the applications are due on Monday, April 20th by 11:59. So you have basically all day up until just before midnight, like Cinderella, to get your application in. So all weekend, you know, you have that. And I mean, I am available if you need something. If it's just like, you know, something's not working, I'm freaking out, you know, go ahead, you can text me, it's fine. And we probably won't need that anymore because this is our last Ideathon. This is a description of the match. And then I just want to show you this here before I get into these individual things. But this here, this clicking here, allows you to actually fill out the application online. So it might be useful if you're one who, you know, maybe you don't have Word on your computer or you're doing it. Okay, I didn't share the page, I apologize. So what I want, this is the description of the Uh-oh, phone is delayed. Okay, hold on one second. Okay. Okay. So anyway, so this description here will let you all be able to fill out the application. So if you have any type of limitations, this might be a good way to do it because you can either copy and paste, like if you use the notes option on your phone, or if you write everything down and just type it in. Just know that this does not save. So you want to be able to do this kind of quickly because you don't want it to, you know, not save your work and then you're just kind of messed up. So, and roughly, are you on the call? Can you jump in? Do you have any thoughts?
Hello, sorry I was a few minutes late. I was having issues with my internet. No, so just to add on to what Janelle was saying, you're welcome to submit the application through Cognito forms or via our email addresses. Just remember to have all your attachments submitted at the same time. So if you're sending us an email, make sure you've got all your attachments ready to go. And you should receive an email from us, one of us at the very least, once your application is received, so you can breathe a bit of a sigh of relief that it got there.
Yeah, for sure. And then let's look at this form here because there's an individual version and then an organizational business collective version. So is anyone on this particular call thinking about applying as a collective? Or like with other people?
Now, would that be the WHPR? Would that be considered organization business?
Yep, that would. So, Ms. McDay, if you were going to apply on your own, hold on one second. If you were going to apply on your own, then you would just do it as an individual. You know, Kimberly McDay, I live here and I'm doing this and that. But if you're applying on behalf of an organization and maybe you're their representative, you would do the organization application. And so it would be instead of your name, excuse me, it would be WHPR. They're on this address. This is a phone number, et cetera, et cetera. And then you would probably, like project director, you would you probably would put your name for project director unless it's somebody else.
Yeah, one thing just to add in there, when you're considering whether it should come from you or the organization maybe you represent, one way to think about it is where you ultimately want the money to go,
right?
And who's sort of the majority stakeholder that's doing a lot of the work. So if you're an individual artist where you're really planning from top to bottom what your project is and you're doing a lot of the work, then maybe it might be better for it to come from you. But if you're a board member at an organization where the organization can utilize the money and it'll go across multiple individuals doing the work, then maybe it's better to come from an organization.
Yeah. And the other part about this is that, you know, if it's a collective, say it's like, you know, 3 friends or something like that, and they don't need like a 501c3, we're not making it stringent in that way, right?
Correct. Yeah. Because some collectives, like an artist collective, you know, they're formal enough that they brand themselves as non-individuals working together, but they also aren't a nonprofit organization, and that's okay. And we can work with you. We kind of take those as a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, because we would have to figure out, you know, as far as the funding, like we wouldn't be cutting 3 different checks. We would be cutting one check
Right.
to the group. So, you know, at the very, you know, if you need a bank account for that, then you probably will need to incorporate in some way. But
or sometimes ensembles, I know, they may have someone who leads the group,
okay,
even administratively. And so a check could be cut to them, but then there's an understanding between everybody that check is then divided out. So then it's up to that individual leader in the collective to then make sure everyone gets paid what they're owed.
Okay, and I'm gonna unmute everybody because I forgot I always do that. So does anyone have any questions or anything?
No questions. You emailed me, this is Sydney. You emailed me back that everything looked pretty good on ours, and do you remember sending that email back?
Oh, I think that was me, Sydney.
Okay. So everything checked out pretty good?
Yeah, so what we did, so we don't necessarily read through it for content per se or the project idea, because that's what the panelists
No, I was talking about, was it properly filled out in a way that I wouldn't have any bumpy roads going through once?
Yes. So part of our process, what Janelle and I do once all the applications come in is we review them just for that purpose, to make sure all your attachments are there and that there's no to alleviate any major questions, because we want the panelists to focus on the content and the project and the artistry that you're talking about. So that's what Janelle and I do. So yeah, yours, that was Parker Pride, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so that one, I think we vetted that one, and that one is good to go to panel.
Good. I got some good news. I just had a grandson. My daughter just brought her home. Just had a little grandson, and
congrats.
hopefully he'll save the world from this coronavirus, since he was born right around the time. Maybe he'll be the cure. I don't know.
You didn't name him.
We have a new addition to the family, which is.
I said
we should have named him COVID the virus.
Oh no!
No, his name not. No, his name not. His name not COVID the virus. No, his name is Kingsley. Kingston. Kingston.
That's such good
Yes.
news. What hope in these dark days, I have to say.
But the scary part was to take him to the hospital and no one could go in but my wife and my daughter.
Oof.
And they locked my wife up there for a whole week. She couldn't leave.
Oh
Oh.
my God.
That yeah, once you're in there, you can't come out.
Wow.
But they let them go today. So we're family again. And it's
Oh,
good news to
at
hear from you
last.
guys.
That's awesome.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Wow.
So that's positive news for, such a crazy time.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. So thank you so much for sharing that, Sydney, and thanks, Anne, for your input. So, but that's just about like who can apply. Now, let's get into a little bit about some of this stuff. Social media handles. We do want to encourage you to put that on there. So if you have a Facebook page or something like that, that should be included. A website. Now, Anne, is this little asterisk meaning that's required? Because what if people don't have an
That's a good question. I think you should, there's no character limit in that line. So if you don't have a website, you could just put NA, like, or not applicable or something.
Okay.
But don't panic about that as an applicant. If you don't have one, you won't be downgraded for that. We just want to, again, like Janelle said, we want to encourage people to include that information, because ultimately if you're awarded a grant, you'll be using your networks in that way, and we want to promote it as well. So if you have a website, definitely put it down so we can help promote it at ArtOps.
Okay. And then same with social media handles as well. And
Yeah, you should be able to type in there. So you could say, if you're someone that just isn't on social media, you can just say, I'm currently not on social media, and that's okay.
Okay. And then as far as the artistic discipline, we're listing everything that will be done, right? So if it's like a festival or something, you want to put all the different artistic disciplines. Or if it's just, you just have one discipline, like I'm a painter or I'm a dancer or something like that, you will put that on there. And
Yeah.
and then we would want to know if you've applied last year and didn't get funding and stuff. Your biography, and you have a limitation here, but really just encourage people to be succinct. We don't need to know what happened in the 5th grade and all that stuff or whatever. But
Right.
your project should have a title for sure, and we should know how much money you are looking to ask for, and start and end date. So let's talk about this a little bit, because like I said, in our present circumstances, depending on what the law is, will dictate whether or not we're able to start things or not in June. But my thought right now is this, worst case scenario, we're not able to physically do things just yet. You can at least start your planning stages in June, right? And your activities may take place later, or you may not have a physical activity at all. We don't want to limit it to just doing things, in real life. You may want to do something virtually as well. Is this a new project? Don't get hung up on this so much. If there is there's one applicant who's come to us before, and they have like a workshop series for kids, and so it's not a new project for them because they've been, that's who they are, and they've been doing this for years or whatever. So it's not a penalty. It's just for us to kind of understand, like, is this your first time trying to do something, or have you been doing this for a while? That's all. And then how many people do you expect it to impact? As long as it's not one, but we just want to, make sure you're focused on Highland Park itself. So let's see, the number of people you plan to benefit, self-explanatory. And then this question here about youth is, the reason why we have that on there is because if you do have a youth-focused project, we just need to know, what are you planning to do with the youth? And also, do you have, we're going to be looking at, do you have the experience to work with the youth? Because if you if you don't have that experience, you know, it's harder to make a case for that. So, and also what relationships like with youth organizations that you might have. But also I want to, you know, just put this disclaimer out. You do not have to work with youth. It's not a benefit or a negative. But if you do work with youth, we want you to say, you know, how it's going to impact them and your experience in working with them, right? And the narrative, and think about this. Now, Ann and I, we've been talking to you all for like 4 weeks. And so we know kind of what you're trying to do, or we've gotten to know you. But this panel does not necessarily know you. We do have some Highland Parkers on it, but they may or may not know about your project. So you want to write it in a way that this person has never heard of me before. We've never met. They don't know my character. They don't know my skills. And I'm selling this thing because I want them to fund my project. So that's how you want to write your description, compelling, right? And do you have some thoughts on this?
I agree certainly with everything that you said, Janelle. I think it's a good point to just.
You have some Highland Parkers on it, but they may or may not. I'm gonna mute everybody really quick. Hold on, Ann. Write it in a way that.
Oh, it's repeating.
Yeah, no, I had to mute everyone because you know, sometimes it has an echo because I have it on Facebook as well. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So with this, again, I think it's just telling your story from the perspective that you're almost, in a way, you're talking to a stranger. So when you talk about what you're going to be doing and talking about how it's relevant to you personally, professionally, to your art form, just give as much detail as you can. So you don't want to presume that if you're a painter, someone may know all the terminology involved with painting, right? You want to be able to explain that in such a way that anyone could understand it. But I think, you know, at the end of the day too, it's about impact. So really emphasize impact as much as you can and how your project will benefit Highland Park. Because that's at the end of the day, that's something that the panel is really looking at, is the impact.
Yeah, for sure. And then that kind of ties into the next point here about the importance of your project and why it's important right now. And Ann, I'm gonna ask you to kind of fill in about this because someone is trying to get on and I want to kind of walk them through that. So if you wouldn't mind going over this next part.
Yeah, the second question.
Yeah, why is this project important to do right now?
Yeah, so as you can imagine, we, you know, as as ArtOps, you know, we wish we had all the money in the world to do all of the projects and make sure that everyone got funded, but unfortunately that's not the case. There's always, you know, a finite amount of money that we can go around, and generally the competition is such that, you know, we can't fund everyone that submits a project. So I think with this question, again, think about the sense of urgency. You know, think about the impact this project is going to make in the short term, in the long term in Highland Park, and how it may stand out. So in a way, thinking about if your project didn't happen, how would Highland Park be worse off? And again, I think this is a core question that the panelists are going to be looking at, just because we want to spread the dollars that we have as much as possible. So, you know, the grant doesn't have to be perfect, even if there's some lingering questions from panelists about partnerships or some of the logistics. That's not the end of the world. I think it's most critical to focus on the sense of urgency in this project and the value it's really going to bring to the community. I would say that the grants who have been funded in the past, that's a major reason of why they received the funds, because they could make that case.
Yeah, I would also say too, Ann, not only about, you know, if your project is missing, like what the community is missing, but I think, you know, innovation and like, you know, being like taking this as an opportunity and like being super creative. We were speaking with someone the other day and they were talking about applying for grants from a perspective not only of solving problems, but of opportunity. And I've been really thinking about that a lot because you know, I come from a social justice background, so I'm always trying to fix everything. But if you think about opportunity based, that's an opportunity for for innovation, right? And most artists are very innovative, right? They're coming up with new ideas, a new perspective, and that's how we, come up with jazz and all this other cool stuff that you already know about. So,
Great. That's a great point, Janelle. And again, I think, your passion can be conveyed through that answer. Because I think it may be the most personal question on the entire application of why you're doing this right now. But that's a really great point. It isn't always just about filling a need. It's about presenting an opportunity.
Yeah. And I also just want people to not be intimidated as far as, writing styles. Like everybody, everybody is different, like how you write and how you, express yourself. So this is not, evaluation on writing skills, or English, like test or whatever. So, as much as you can help, like, typos and stuff like that, but as long as you are able to clearly articulate what you want to happen and how this funding will support that, that's what we're looking for. It doesn't have to be, in a technical writing style or anything like that. So no pressure there. But it just has to be clear. So that presents a different type of challenge. And then, Andy, you want to talk about like partnerships? I know
Sure.
I kind of talked about it a little bit, but you can.
Yeah, sure. So we put this in here because again, it's part of the philosophy of why and how ArtOps is the way that it is. And in our experience in Highland Park so far, we've seen the amazing benefits of collaboration and how residents and artists and organizations work together no matter what, and no matter what types of resources financially they might have. But the power of partnerships is so strong. And so we just want you to be able to articulate that and really encourage any sort of partnership that you're thinking about for your project. And they don't have to be conventional, they can be outside of the box. We've seen some pretty interesting projects in the past. And partnerships can mean all sorts of things, whether that's with a vendor or a restaurant or a youth group, another nonprofit, musicians, artists. It kind of goes on and on and on.
Yeah, the point of this app, this grant, which we say all the time, but it's definitely, it's no small potatoes. $50,000 is $50,000, but it also kind of prepares you and sets you up in a supportive way to build up your grant writing chops and get experience, so that when you see another opportunity, like I've posted so much stuff today that has come through from Ann and from other places about just a grant for this, a grant for that, artist support, blah, 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 blah. And so a grant like this, would prepare you for something like that. And even if you go through this process, you apply and your project is not funded, because you've applied, you still have access to myself and to Ann. So if it didn't work out, that your project was funded, but maybe there was a Kresge grant, or maybe there was a Night Arts Challenge grant or something like that that you wanted to apply for, or you wanted, some advice or coaching, we're still available for that. And then this last part here, is there anything else you would like the panel to know in considering your application? I would encourage you to put something there, even if you feel like you're repeating yourself. But that goes back to, basically, why is this project important to do now? That's another chance to really push like your agenda and, just really make that case, that, closing arguments, if you will, at the end of like the Law and Order shows or whatever. But that's your last chance for that. And then I'm gonna unmute everyone to see if we have questions before we go on to the next part. So hold on one second. Okay, everyone's unmuted. It was just a little bit of a delay. So if anyone has questions, feel free to jump in. Okay. So I'm gonna leave it unmuted for a little while until I hear that echo again. But so the budget here, this is an upload of files, and Anna's encouraging everybody to use this budget sheet. And then there's some other things. So let's go to the budget sheet. Let's see if I can get to there. Okay. So, oh goodness gracious. That's Ann and that's me. I couldn't get it to,
You should be able to click on it from the Cognito, hopefully, but.
No, I wanted to show them the one that you created for.
Oh, right.
And I set it up earlier and I was like, oh, this is great. But you know how technology do you dirty right when you're in front of people. It's just, it's like that bad kid that saves stuff in front of, your company or whatever. Anyway. So this is a sample budget that Anne created for us. And how she created it was really cool. If you want to just hit on that, Anne, just give them some highlights. And I
Sure.
can.
So about, I think it was 2 Ideathons ago, 2 weeks ago, we did a session just on budgets. And that recording should be available for you to watch. Thank you, Janelle, for recording it. But basically, we just went through sort of a mock budget. So we put together a mock project. And in my case, it was as if I was an independent artist writing on behalf of a collective. And I wanted to request some funding to help us do some kid shows that our wind quintet does. So in this document, I laid out the numbers, but then I also put down more logistical questions and thought processes. So highlighted in yellow, questions I ask myself when filling this out, and then questions I ask myself before I actually submit the document. So again, it's just sort of cover the questions to be thinking about when you're doing this budget, like your match amount. Do I have artist fees in there? Do I have artist fees for myself? Because it's really important that I get paid as a professional artist for my time. What of my costs, what could be in kind, i.e. what could be donated to me that I don't have to actually pay for? Let's see, are my expenses listed or covered in answering the who, what, where, when questions? Again, like if you're addressing the where in the narrative of where it's going to happen, then think about it in terms of expenses. So if you say you're going to work with the school, think about if you need to pay the school for venue space. So again, it's just sort of a rationale of how to put this type of budget together.
Yeah, and Anne, can you just talk about briefly, because I really liked, and the Ideathon is available, and I mean, it really will set you up to win as far as figuring out how to do a budget, period. But you talked about how you listed your expenses first, and then you went to revenue. So you want to hit on that really quick?
Yeah, so the way that I approach doing budgets is doing expenses, because that way it's easier for me to figure out how much money I have to make in the revenue section in order to cover my costs. So in this mock project, I laid out all the expenses as I knew it. And I tried to give as much detail as I can. And that's not only just for the panel, but it's for yourself as well. And in this case, it would be for me. So if and when I was awarded some grant funds, I could go back and look at this document and remember, oh yeah, that's how I came up with $2,400 for the artist fees for performances. So just having as many details as you can actually be helpful. I mean, I know it can be tedious sometimes, but again, just like we were saying about you need to paint the picture for the panelists in terms of your narrative, you want to paint the picture to the panelists with your budget as well, and really show them how you've broken down your costs. Mm-hmm. And the form, the form is always a work in progress. Our team has worked to make it such that the cells in gray are automatically calculated. So the total project column, so you shouldn't have to fill in numbers there. It should automatically do the math for you. But we're always welcome to feedback on this form, because we know it can be a little bit complicated, but really it's the areas in white that you want to be focused on. And there's no set number of expense line items you have to have. I mean, in my case, I had quite a few, right? I had 12 there, let's say 10 or 12. But your project is your project, and so it might be a little bit different.
Yeah, but you just want to make sure you can explain what you need. Like, I need $10,000. Why? Just being able to say what you need and why you need it. And then also, we do want details, but we don't need to know every item that you need. So if there was like a community art project, you wouldn't have to list every single itemized, like, 15 crayons, and you wouldn't have to, unless that was really a part of the project. But you could just generalize it and say art supplies and kind of go from there.
And another reason why we ask you to lay it out in this way is that if you're awarded funding, I mean, hopefully it's at the full amount of the ask that you requested, but it may not be. So what we do at that point is we also go back to you and say, okay, I'm making this up. You know, you asked for 4,000, but we're able to fund your project at 2,000. So what would that $2,000 go towards specifically in your expenses? So then together we can go back and look at your budget and help you figure out how you want to spend the $2,000. So the budget really is a tool that you're going to be using throughout your entire project all the way through to the end.
Yeah, you will. And definitely it could be helpful too, like we said, when you're preparing yourself to, you know, look at other applications. So, you know, if you do this and it's like terrible and it doesn't make any sense or whatever, you know, but maybe the panel likes your project, we can, you know, help you kind of gain an understanding of this. And this is just a business skill that we all need, really. And so looking at the revenue side, and do you want to talk about, you know, how you came up with some of these numbers here?
Sure. So doing the expenses first, I did have some in-kind expenses. You'll see those in column D right there: school admin, teacher time, workbooks, space rental. And that basically means that those are goods and services that are donated to my project. So I don't need to pay the teachers to do this project because they're already employed at the school. Or I have a really good relationship with the school in such a way that they say, don't worry about paying for using the gym, we'll just cover that. So if I'm putting my in-kind expenses down, I need to put them up in the revenue as well, because you want your in-kind column to balance. So you'll see that under the matching funds. Because I'm a new applicant in this hypothetical situation, I have to make a 25% match. And getting to that, I did my calculation of the $4,000 times 25%, which equals $1,000. In this case, I've gone over and above my match, which is totally fine. You don't have to be at the specific percentage of your match. You just have to make at least that match. So I've made at least $1,000 in match. I've done that with school teacher time alone. So that's kind of a check mark, right? I can check that off of my thought process list. But I also know in this scenario that our collective got a grant from a corporate sponsor for $1,000. And that I knew that going into writing this grant, which is just a bonus. Again, and that goes back to partnerships, showing that other people are invested in your project. So I put that in the cash column because it's literal cash that they've given to us. And then I've come up with my grant request amount, because for me in this project, I ultimately really want to make sure the artist fees are covered. And so doing the math for that and my expenses, it comes out to $4,000.
Sorry.
And so I do the totals, and then I make sure that my total project revenue of, what is that, $7,550 matches my total expenses of $7,550. So again, I kind of check that off the list.
And the other part about the in-kind match, you know, we encourage you to kind of have this figured out, like at least where you're going to solicit. But just know that, you know, with all things, especially now, Lord, but with all things, you know, stuff changes, right? So you may initially think you're going to need space rental, right? And it turns out, no, you can't, you know, use space, but maybe someone gives you internet access. And so that would, you know, or pays your cable bills for however many, you know, years to fit you out with Wi-Fi or something. So anyway, whatever that in-kind might start off being, it may fluctuate a little bit, but don't think that you won't make the match at all. You will have to make the match by the end of the project, and it's going to be part of your final report. So you won't, we don't necessarily do a reimbursement style, but you will need to show all your receipts. So just kind of prepare yourself for that. If your project is chosen for funding, you know, just have your self, you know, kind of organized, and know that you'll be having to produce, you know, paper copies or, you know, scan or something like that. So you want to keep track of of the expenses that you have, even especially if things change from the original budget, which they usually do.
Right. And also just one last thing on this budget piece is that, again, when just think about when the panel is looking at it, they just want to see that you've really sort of thought through the scope of this project. And that, again, even with revenue and your matching funds, they'll be looking at that. But Janelle and I can also give them any updates if they have questions on it. But again, the panel they really just want to see that you've really thought through your project and that you are committed to making this project happen, even if the way that you make your match might be a little bit undefined by Monday, the 20th.
Right. And then just this thought about some matches say, some grants rather say you have to have new money. We're flexible in that, but we definitely want to we want it to be that this grant, this match that you're getting is something that you've put forth an effort to generate additional funding. We don't, if you know that you pay rent for the building that you're in, on a regular basis, that shouldn't be like counted as a match. Like that's something that you would be paying for anyway. But if you are renting a different building for this project that you know if you were to do this program, you would have to pay that, then, and if someone gives it to you for free, then that could be an in-kind match. So if that makes sense. But I'm gonna open it up for, everybody's already unmuted. Oh wait, no, are they unmuted? No, they're not. Okay, so if anyone has any questions while we're still on the budget, feel free to shout them out right now.
No questions from me. I'm trying to feed this young lady so she can feed this baby. That's why I keep getting up. Excuse me for leaving the camera.
No, it's okay. We have it muted because there's a little bit of an echo. So, and then we also have the chat too. If people don't feel comfortable talking, there's a chat option for people to put in on the side. But okay, let's go and just kind of wrap up. So again, this is the team. This is myself and Ann, and these are our email addresses. So if you have any, questions or whatever during this, during this time, if you, as long as it's not like 11:53 on Monday, for the most part, like I'm available. But if something comes up over the weekend, it might be a little bit of a delay, but we can get back with you. I can get back with you. I'm not going to speak for Ann, but if it's something really hard and I need her help, I might have to bug her over the weekend. But
Right.
hold on one second. And there we go. Okay. So, but yeah, this is Ann and myself. And like Ann is really good with the, like tech support if something crazy happens, if the website crashes or, you accidentally delete your stuff. I mean, we both actually can help with that. So yeah, feel free to reach out. And then it just kind of describes like what we're doing here. And then questions, they don't have to be, about what we've talked about. We tried to kind of be broad, but we have just a few more minutes. So if anyone has a question or, any thoughts, last minute thoughts, feel free to jump in.
No last minute thoughts.
Oh my goodness. That's because I unmuted everybody. Jesus, sorry. I keep doing that. I'm sorry. I'm like, man, nobody ever has questions.
I did have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Back to the beginning about who the check is name. It's like the organization's name, and then it's like the program manager.
Mm-hmm.
So should that check, so the organizational name is what the check will be made out to, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And the project director, again, I mean, that's the individual that's going to really make sure that everything happens the way it's supposed to happen. But particularly if you are a nonprofit, yes, we would make the check out to your organization, not only for your records, but for our bookkeeping purposes and IRS tax purposes.
Okay.
And same with address. So address, put in the organization's address rather than your personal address as project director.
Okay.
because
Yeah.
that's where we send the check.
Now, the other thought to that, Kim, is if you were, say you were partnering with a youth center or something like that, then you would be the applicant, and then the, a youth center or whatever would be your partner, right? So where we said partnerships. So you would list here, I'm applying as an individual, but I'm partnering with X, Y, and Z to get this done. So I'm going to give them some money, but they're not, the main fiduciary of this grant. I'm controlling the budget, I'm setting the budget, and I'm allocating the budget, and I'm responsible for the budget. If it doesn't go right, at the, funds or whatever, like, I'm taking responsibility. So if something goes sideways, it's on me. And then you would say, I'm partnering with XYZ Community Center, and they're going to provide support for 2 of the 5 sessions that we're doing, and I'm going to give them $200 or something like that. They would be a partner, but you don't have to list them as an organizational, you don't want to list them as an organization applicant.
Okay. All right.
And again, just the partnership question and tying that back to the budget. Just remember to think about how your partners are represented in your project budget. So if you are partnering with schools, make sure they're listed somewhere in the expenses, whether that's the school donating space or time, or another arrangement where maybe
your partnerships will be listed. So yeah, the school administration and school teacher time. So Ms. Kim, that would be where you would list whomever. If you were doing it as an individual, that would be where you would list them. You would be paying them that much, right? Or they will be giving you that much worth of support, basically. So.
And same with artist fees. You could discuss fellow artists in your field being partners in that section of the narrative about partnerships, and then you also list them here in the expenses.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like everybody's super prepared. I'm fired up about these applications.
Very exciting.
Yes. So, and if anyone has questions, like, I'm available tomorrow. If you don't have my my cell, you can email. Let's get to that last slide, because I do not want to say that on here. But on this last slide here, this is the email address. So if you email communityheart@art-ops.org and say, somebody call me, I'm freaking out. You don't have to say that, but you have a question or you want to talk to somebody, you put that on there, and we get that, it comes straight to us. We're sitting at the computer all day, and it's on our phones and comes across the window. So, but we'll definitely reach back out to you in a timely manner to try to answer any questions that you may have. So, and I'll be available for questions tomorrow from about 10:30 until about, maybe 6 or 7. So. All right. Well, cool. Well, thank you all so much for being on. Again, this is going to be uploaded onto our YouTube channel, and then we're going to, share it back to our page so you can listen to it later in case you missed the beginning parts. And also, I'm going to probably, all the other previous Ideathons have been listed, but I might list every single one of them just so that it's easier to, have to scroll through a bunch of stuff. So, but thank you all so much. I pray you all have a good night, and thank you for joining us. Any last questions before?
Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Be safe.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Be safe.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Adios.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.